it's so important for us to be able to have that spark of life within us. We have this pilot light of being a creator and being a creative. And I really believe that everybody is a co-creator with spirit, whether you identify with that or not. And I think over time, we're starting to understand that as we make more space in life, we are able to, kind of have contemplation of wanting to have more purpose in life, wanting to do more things that we never really had before in previous generations. And then also we get bogged down by so much happening. We're so information inundated. There's so much going on in the world. Something happens on the other side, and within 24 hours, we know what's happening. And it can be overwhelming as well. And so how to balance those two together so that we are building a society, we're building a life where we want more time and space to do the things that we love and still not let the everyday get to us, even though we still need to be in touch with everything. So it's been really important to help, at least for me as well, and to write about this and go into this of how to really keep that energetic flow. And every time you want to move up into a new layer and a new level of life, you get this like new challenge to move through. And what does it feel like when we want to be able to, get to those new levels, but still have this flow through us and not get pushed back by fear, get pushed back by self-doubt. And it happens all the time when we're going into life, like we're going into new sections where we're trying to figure out what that feeling is of like moving through that creative spark and helping to like navigate so that we're still on course and we don't get held back by our own self. Because really it's just us within us, and we're kind of fighting that war between us of how do I do the things that I want to do that I love without fighting with myself on what could be, with fear, with self-doubt, with frustration, with anger, with everything going on with our relationships. And so I want to get into, what does a healthy creative life look like? And I've always felt it's really important to identify success for each one of us personally. And really, I translate success into the quality of life that we want to have. And when we look back at the end of our life, what is it that we're going to be most proud of that we were able to do? What is it that we're going to be most proud of that we, said, I did that thing. I wasn't hindered by anything and I got to move forward with it. So I want to talk a little bit about what does that start to look like and give you some time to then kind of sit with it for a little bit so that you can start to come up with what does that feel like for you. And, again, just kind of going back to like, there's a light inside of each one of us, and it's this beautiful pilot light, this like divine spark that's within us. And we tend to kind of keep it small. And the role of the creative is so important right now that we really want to make sure that we bring it forward. We keep that pilot light lit so that we're shining a light out in the world, because creators are the ones that really take that divine source of inspiration and they're going to translate that out into the world. Whether it's writing, it's drawing, even in marketing, it doesn't really matter. You're helping translate and give a voice to something that doesn't happen. And so it's really, really important. And nowadays, with everything being online and social, right, the new currency is our attention, which is our life force. So we really want to be mindful of how we're, especially with creatives, how we're giving our life force, our attention into places that doesn't benefit us, because time and our life force is really all that we have. And so it's important that you're giving yourself the right pieces inside of you to keep, being able to be inspired, be in tune, be intuitive, and put out the things that you want, because you're helping shape the language of the culture and society by giving that voice. And you're bridging the gap between what is that intangible to the tangible and to the material world. And so we want to make sure that sometimes when we get too focused on the material world, we have all the right tools that help bring us back into that sacred space. And so we're going to get into a little bit in depth of what does that look like? Like, the human body, in my opinion, is like, we're a vessel. We're a human, sacred vessel. And we want to make sure that everything is clean and open so that we can bring in the divine, so that we can hear that intuition. We can hear that insight, that inspiration to then figure out what it is best for us and what it is best for the world. And I like to use the word divine. I like to use the word source of energy. So that intelligent energy that has created everything out into the world is what created you, created me, and it's the force that we want to pull on and we want to connect to. And you can connect to that at any point in time. It doesn't have to be it can be in any specific ritual, or it can just be, as you're moving through and you need to have that deeper connection. So really think about this as the creative is the conduit to that channel to help give that voice out into the world and be that hit and be able to hold and have this space that's clear and clean so that you can sort of wait for inspiration to drop in, because it's never when we want it, but we always sometimes have these rituals of how to get into that creative zone. Sometimes it's going for a walk, sometimes it's washing dishes, driving your car. I've known lots of people to have lots of different ways where they're like doing things with their hands just so that they can open up that space to get that insight or get that strike of inspiration. So we want to be able to find ways where we're kind of always in that flow state and always moving through in the body, in the mind, and the emotions and the spirit. So if you want to take a moment and maybe think about, what does a creative life look like for you? Maybe jot a couple of things down. Is it feeling inspired about certain projects? Is it being able to also know when you need to stop when you're in the creative, like you're in the creative flow, but also knowing like there's a time to rest and knowing like that push and pull when you start to imagine what would be your, most ideal creative life? Is it having a balance of activities so that you're really having time to pursue the interests and the things that you want and those drivers to help get you where you want to go? Is it where that you're not in burnout and you're not able to do the things that you want? Nature doesn't burn out on its own. It's always in this natural state of evolving and moving. And so think about, just for like a couple minutes, what that looks like for you. What are some key words, some phrases that might feel ideal to you? And then also think about, what are some short-term goals that you might want to accomplish in the next 3 months, which I think would be kind of helpful so that I think also part of having something that's really successful is also being able to have measurable goals so that we're not in only just this inspirational, intuitive, ethereal place, but we can ground it into practicality and we can start to see some structure and some measurable steps. And so we're kind of bringing that yin and yang energy together so that we both, so that they're both complementing each other to build real creation. I'm gonna take a breath, and then as you're moving through what an ideal creative life looks like, some short-term goals, it's also really helpful to identify why. Why do you want to achieve those short-term goals so that there's a way to hook into a deeper intention with what it is that you're trying to do? So that it's sometimes, if it's a little too vague or if it's more on a material level, it may not be the long haul. We may kind of peter out with our energy, but if there's a real reason why we want to do the things that we want to do, it might keep that driving force. When you've ever gone into any sort of project, you get really excited in the beginning for all the things that you want to do, and then it kind of, you get into the muck and the mire of it, and it gets really hard. And so if you can kind of remember that North Star, that's really helpful, especially when you have a lot of other things going on and how to prioritize. So I'll give you a minute for that. And then I want to get into, what does it mean to be in alignment? If you've heard this word before, it's also a very kind of a spiritual term as well. And it's the sense of, you can think of alignment in a couple ways: alignment of your energy, alignment of your posture, alignment of how your priorities are. But it's also another way to say, like, how are you in alignment with your own power and your life force? And what does that look like for you? And how are you calling in your energy and your life force back to you to stay in alignment? And how does that feel in the body? How does that feel with energy running through, so that we don't feel fragmented, depleted, exhausted, which would be words that we would use when we're out of alignment. And so sometimes when we've got our minds, especially females tend to have, your mind's on 20 different things at once, which is a superpower, but it also can deplete you very easily. So we want to think like, if our energy's out there everywhere, when do I start calling everything back in? When do I start bringing everything back into alignment so that I can make sure that I'm focused on the things that I want, and then I can put that energy all in one direction that I need it to be in. So think about how alignment looks for you. Maybe there are areas in your life where you feel very much in alignment, or you've had those moments where everything feels, not words that you would use to feel like you're in alignment would be inspired, energized, you're focused, you're centered, you're ready to do your work. What are those times a day, those moments where you have felt an alignment and where you haven't felt an alignment? And so we can start to go a little bit deeper to understand, where it is that we're leaking some energetic gaps and where we know that this is a really good place where we've been to kind of close the gap. And so a couple other things to think about is when we get out of alignment and our energy is off a little bit, we might actually get a little too fixated on a goal that we're focused on. And this happens with deadlines. We definitely have a way that we want to get something done, and it's a great superpower to have when you're focused on one thing. Sometimes I think it's a debatable conversation. Is obsession a good thing to have, or is it not? And I think it kind of depends on for how long, for what you're doing. But if we get too fixated on a goal for too long, I think that can be damaging to other areas of your life and can get you out of alignment. And it can damage your health. It can damage your mental health. It can damage lots of things. Also feeling out of alignment. And this is important because we're going to talk about how to kind of make sure that everything's back centered, right? So when thinking about being out of alignment, are there stories that you're telling yourself that might keep you in a cycle, in that grit and that grind without any relief? It's very much hustle culture that we are, it's easy to get into, especially if there's a lot around us and we're kind of in the trenches of, being in the material world too long. And we're like coaching ourselves to say, no, keep going. This is what we need to do. Just grin and bear it. That works, I think, in short sprints, but not for long periods of time. So that can also get us out of alignment. And then think about, are you overconsumed with your work? And how would you want to have a life as a creative in that alignment? And then any limiting beliefs that might come up that might hold you back from moving forward is another way of being out of alignment. So there's sort of this like overextension of how we use our energy. And then there's also kind of an under extension where we're maybe a little too afraid to get out of our comfort zone, too afraid to go do the things that we want to go do. And it holds us back from moving forward in what we would really love. So you kind of think about, what are the three things that might be hindering you from aligning to that, feeling of success, feeling of happiness, feeling of fulfillment, and feeling motivated in that creative spark and having that in your life on a regular basis? Are there any feelings that are holding you back or hindering you from even being able to see the vision of success? If you're having a hard time even seeing what that could be, that might be a block as well, because there might just be blinders have been on a little too long, and we want to kind of lift that up. And some things that can also contribute to that, and that's, just kind of the way of life sometimes, is that sometimes we just kind of get into survival mode and we got to pay the bills and we got to do all these things. And, it sounds really great and to go and do, all these really fun projects. But we've got rent to pay, we've got bills to pay, and I'm going to kind of make the case that you need a balance of all of it so that you can be able to get further ahead, that you can get out of survival mode, so that you can think bigger beyond the next level. And I've definitely been there myself. Another way that you could feel like things might be hindering you. And again, we're looking at things that are going to hinder us so that we can find that bridge to say, like, if we know what we want and we know it might be holding us back, then we can connect the dot to like make them get into that place where we want to be. So think about, is there anything that you're doing where you're overworking because there's too many deadlines that are piling up? Is there anything about being too fixated on feedback or things that people are saying around you? Are there any outdated stories that are telling you, like I was kind of mentioning before, sometimes we tell ourselves if we could just get through this period and just like put our nose to the grindstone and keep going, it's fine. But if that continues for too long, then we're sort of setting ourselves up to sort of be in this kind of, it becomes a rut because we're in this deep cycle of not being able to get out of that and change that into something else. And then just those limiting beliefs and stories that just either were given to us by family members, something we grew up with that we haven't been able to let go of, and finding ways that we can start to like disintegrate that and change it into something else that we want. And so we want to have a way that we're balancing our very practical lives with the work that we do and opening it up to a spiritual life. I mean, spiritual life is a really tough conversation to have because it's not religious, it's not about dogma, and there's not really a sense of where to go because we're sort of left with trying to find our own path. And so I think for me and what I want to talk about is really helping to align that energy so that you're navigating your own self with your intuition to be able to say, this is what I need and I'm okay to go get it. So let's just take a quick visualization, and you want to just kind of close your eyes for a second and take a deep breath and let go of all of the day and the distractions that are in your mind and really kind of move through that perfect day in your life where you've got this newfound sense of creative energy and that creative spark is within you. And just kind of simply go through like, what would happen and how would it feel and how would it look when you wake up in the morning? What would that morning routine look like? And then how would you move into the afternoon? What are you doing? Who are you around? Where are you at? Who's with you? What are you working on? What are you enjoying? And then where are you in the evening? Are you settling into your evening? Are you relaxing from the day? Or is this your creative time? Is this where you thrive? And just kind of think about and feel how that would feel to move through that kind of ideal day. And if you want to take a minute or so, and maybe just jot down some things that came to mind. More so the way that you felt. Life changes, but if we can really hone in on that feeling of when we know something is working really well, then whatever that routine is or that activity is, we're going to know it's the right one because we've identified this is the feeling that we want to have. This is the way we want to connect with this activity, to know that we're fueling ourselves inspirationally, we're fueling our creative spark, we're fueling the things that we want to do in life. So we have this creative spark, we have this energy that flows through us. We want to stay in alignment with what we're doing, and life is going to, move us back and forth and teeter us back and forth. And so we always want to try and figure out what that is. And so how do we start to structure that together? So I want to get into 4 pillars, and you can kind of think of them in 2 ways. There's 2 visuals that I like to have. One is a pyramid with 4 different states that move up. And the other is a way of like thinking about your vessel as a sacred house. And these are 4 walls that we're going to talk about to build. And you can I'll probably go and use both metaphors as we go through it. So we can kind of start with like the first, well, there's 4 pillars. So the 4 pillars are your physical, your mental, your emotional, and your spiritual. And it kind of moves up, right? And we want to keep that. And if we can build on top of that, then we get into alignment and we can start to see one really affects the other. And I think society and science really double down on our physical and our mental. If I were to ask you what that would sound like or look like to you, you'd probably have a really good sense, like, and we'll get into each one of them as well. But I think that we kind of scratch the surface at our emotions. They're evasive, they're really hard to nail down, they move through us. And then spiritual is just something that's sort of left to our own nature. And it's a little bit tough when we try and find the pieces and we evolve. So what resonated maybe a year ago may not be the same that resonates for us now. And that's still something to fine tune and work on. And in the world that I come from, and especially learning energy healing, these 4 pillars really have to be nurtured on a daily basis. So when we talk about doing something physical, like we're going to talk about the physical world, not just what it is in your body, but around you, that's a daily practice. What you're putting, and thinking in your mind, that's a daily practice. How you're regulating your nervous system and your emotions, that's a daily practice. And then how you're connecting to the divine, it's a very personal thing, but it's also a daily practice. It doesn't have to be a very large practice. You might be able to find things that cover all 4 of them off in an hour, because that's you figured out that framework for yourself, which is really important. But this is just a way to say, if we want to keep this flow of energy going, want to maintain that creative spark, these are just kind of the basic building blocks, and all 4 of them together, not just the 2, not just the 3, but really all 4 to maintain that level. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I'm just going to kind of keep going through. So let's get into the physical world, and we'll just kind of talk a little bit about that. And then we'll also kind of like have a moment so that you can kind of see where you're at and where you want to go. So pretty basic, right? Basic level, maybe it's the bottom of the pyramid. It's like the main first pillar of your 4 walls. And it's the basis of our senses. It's what we see, it's what we touch, it's what we taste, it's what we hear, it's what we smell, it's what we put in our bodies. It's physically our body, and it's also the conditions of our environment and where we put ourselves. So it's, what are we eating? How are we sleeping? How are we connecting with others? And at the base level, like, we're creating a physical world, and that is going to have a direct impact on our interior world as we go up. So we want to think about, it sounds really simple, but how often are you moving your body? Exercise to me is a really important element, and it's not necessarily like I'm telling you, please go get a 6-pack. This is more about how can you move your energy in your body? You can go for a walk. You can put on some music and dance. You can do whatever it is that you want to do. But the key is that you are an energetic being in kind of this little meat suit, and you really want to not have energy that's stagnant. So we all sit in front of a computer, or most of us do, for way too long. And so we get really in a sedated, like a sedentary kind of lifestyle. And so we have to think about moving our body around more than I think other generations. So what does that look like? Because that then starts to stimulate other things. It starts to help clear out our mental, clear out our emotional when things get stuck. And we'll get into that in more detail. And so I know it sounds simple, but we can kind of get into the muck and the mire. And especially when we get into the basics of every day, this is where we start to get fragmented, because we might be physical in not the wrong ways, but more of like the errands that we have to run and all the meetings that we have to go to. And it's just this like go, 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 but we're not really kind of moving our body in the ways that we should. And so we want to make sure that our body is in motion in the right way, and that we're really helping to open up the lung capacity, being able to breathe in the right way, and having this foundation set so that we're aware of how much we're absorbing in the world, how much it affects us, and also where we're putting ourselves in our environment. Do we need a clean space? Clean in the sense of like, simple and clean and not as many distractions. Do we need to be clutter free? Are there people in our environment that are giving us a hard time? Maybe we need to take ourselves out of one environment and put it in another so that we can get the peace and the calmness that we need so that we can do what we need to do. And so thinking about the structure of that. And just really kind of being honest with like, is there anything in your environment that might make you feel stuck, that might be a little bit toxic? And where do you have a place that's a sanctuary or that you can retreat to? So if you want to do like a quick little like column, doesn't have to be a lot, but maybe there's like one column and it's really like, what is it that we want to start doing? And then what is it that we want to stop doing? So for our physical world, as we're trying to build and craft this new life, what elements in your life do you need to start doing to make your physical world in more alignment with yourself and your needs? Is there anything that you want to start doing, start adding into, things that you can tweak? And then also, on the flip side of that, is there anything that you kind of know, I should probably take this out? Maybe I can replace this for that. Maybe instead of doing this activity, I can do that instead. That would be more in alignment to moving this flow of energy in the body, moving this flow of energy throughout your nervous system and your mind, which we'll get into. And just start to see as you were going with that vision earlier of what that creative life looks like for you. How would you actually get there? And even in incremental steps, what would be the next step to get you closer to having that fun, that creative life that makes you feel inspired to get up every morning? And so the next pillar, the next ring on the pyramid is the mental world. And again, kind of think of these as building blocks. So if you're like really building a solid foundation with your physical, then the next layer up is going to be a little bit easier. So when we think about the mental pillar, we want to think about, and this is kind of a lot. There's a lot of layers to this one because it's how you were raised, what you were taught to believe, what you might still hold on to, the stories that you might carry from experiences. And some of those, and we've all been in this spot of maybe there's some illusions of things that we might think that have happened. We interpret things the way we see them. And all of that mixed around becomes these lenses on our eyes and a perception of where we're going. And sometimes we have to take a moment to kind of pull back and say, is this really how I want to start viewing my life? Is this a way that I want to have these thoughts run into my mind in this world as I'm trying to move forward? And what is it that I'm also putting into my mind? What am I watching? What am I hearing? What am I absorbing and taking in that I'm holding to? And a couple of things you can start to think about is, what are you learning? What are you feeding your mind? The stories that you're telling yourself. And we just have this condition of like telling ourselves that we're not good enough for things. We tell ourselves like, who am I to do this work? Who am I to do this stuff? And I think that's really the most important key as well as a creative. When you open up this space and you're able to connect to the divine, you're given those insights for a reason. And there are plenty of people that are open enough where if those insights need to drop to them, they will. And there are people that are ready to get going with what they want to do. So if you're getting this, and I've been there, I still work on this as well. If you're getting these really big ideas, you're getting small ideas, it doesn't even matter. You're getting these ideas. How are you setting up the framework and the structure and the environment so that you can deliver those ideas out into the world, even if it's just for you? Sometimes I think those are really great to have so that you're able to, even if they're just really fun projects just for you because they make you feel really good and they inspire you, those are probably the most important things to do. I think someone had mentioned drawing. I started doing drawings a little while ago. little tiny, like took me 15, 20 minutes. And every time I would do one, I felt, the programming of this feels silly. I'm wasting my time. I shouldn't be doing this. It's like 15 minutes of just, relaxing. And it actually helped me think about new solutions, think about other things, big things, because I could clear out the mental. But I still had this other like lower vibrational monkey mind kind of going and telling me that I should be doing something else and feeling guilty for it. And I've continued with those drawings. So they've gotten bigger and bigger and bigger, and they're just really helpful. So just as a quick example, that we like to tell ourselves stories. We have these different programs that run in our head, and it's just a matter of making sure that we can get them out so that we can go do the things that we want to do. And I don't know any creative, any artist that doesn't have some kind of narrative running in their head. For the most part, there's always exceptions to the rules. And think about like, what are those old beliefs that you're holding on to? You can rewrite those stories. If you can have one story that tells you can't do it, you can absolutely change that and have another story that says that you can do that. And, those first thoughts that come into our mind, we don't have control over, but we do have control over if we decide to continue them. And that's the point that I want to make here in this world that we have when we're intentional, like, okay, what's running through here? I have the capacity and the ability, because I'm a co-creator with spirit, to be able to change and maneuver that and shift that to what's going to help me move forward. If I'm getting insights and ideas, it's your role, it's your obligation, it's your role to go out into the world and put those out for everyone to enjoy. We're kind of, we're definitely, what's the word? Aggressively looking for our life purpose, for looking for what is it that we want out of life. And we have this space and time. And sometimes, purpose comes at the end. You kind of start to see what that is because you did all the things that you were inspired to do. And life purpose doesn't have to be this grandiose thing. It could be as simple as, and probably even better, that you're just this amazing being that's a role model to your family members, that's a role model to your coworkers, that's a role model to your community. And not that you're trying to be that person, but you're just doing you in such a way that you inspire others. And so if you're getting any of that insight, if you're getting any of that drive, this is where we're going to master building that framework and running that energy through so that you just go and you just be that force in nature that we all want to watch and see and be inspired by. So this is how we start to deepen our self-mastery. And this is how we start to learn how to really start to direct the focus, because now if we're understanding, thoughts are going to come in. Dark thoughts are going to come in. I don't think you should control them. I don't know if you can control them. Sometimes they're helpful. Sometimes we need to be able to bounce off of that and understand, but we really have to know, how much weight do I want to give this? Is this just something I need to discard and move on? How do I need to reset? Because we know that mindset is everything. And so this second pillar has a lot of weight to it, and it's where we're going to spend most of our time. It's us with us having these dialogues and these conversations. But we also need to know how to get out of our head so that we can channel that information to come through and hear the intuition. I know you all hear your intuition. The key is like, how do we follow that intuition? How do we take action on it when it tells us to get out of that comfort zone? That's the key, right? And doing the things that make us feel uncomfortable and nervous. And so we want to be intentional with how we structure our thoughts and what we're putting in, so that we're really just trying to build that muscle so that we can prepare ourselves to make bigger life changes and bigger transformations that we want, whatever that is. And we know when self-sabotaging thoughts come in, because they do, and that's okay. We know how to handle them. We know how to like flip the script. We already have the cheat codes to say, okay, this is just what happens when I'm in a new level and I'm out of my comfort zone. I can move them aside. Right? And if you need to go back to that physical world of like, maybe I just need to go for a walk. Maybe I need to just move that energy in a different place so then I can clear my head. So that was a lot, but if you want to just also write down maybe in like those two columns again for your mental world, what vision do you want to hold for yourself? What is that new way you want to think about how you walk into the world? And what new ideas do you want to bring into your life? And really kind of think about, what mental state of being is going to help you be more in alignment with your needs and that creative force to reckon with, that creative spark. And then on the other side, what is it that we want to let go of and release? What outdated beliefs, stories, thoughts just don't serve you anymore? It's okay to let them go. And I think the key with that is if I'm removing something, what am I replacing it with? So here's where I want to go. Here's what I need to let go of, and we can start building that bridge. I can do these things. I will do these things, and make this more in alignment with that mental world that you see yourself and how you can get there. So now we're going to go up another layer and we're going to get into our emotional world. And hopefully you can start to see how this alignment, these build upon each other. So our physical environment's in a really great spot, right? We're starting to cultivate that creative spark. We're getting our mental set up in the right way. And so now we're going to have emotions that come through. And emotions are great messengers in the body to help signal us about different situations. We get excited, we get happy, we get frustrated, we get angry, we get sad, we have to move through depression. And they're all alerting us of what is physically going on around us and our mental state and what we need to get in and out of. And so the key with emotions, and I've had to learn this the hard way, but the key with emotions is that they're just messengers and they're not supposed to stay too long. And it's easy to kind of have a thought and an emotion gets attached to it and we hold on to it. And this is how we develop stories. This is how we develop thinking that just kind of, it's hard to break over time because we get so used to thinking the same thing over and over again. But really they're here to deliver really insights and messages so that we can move through it and get to the next level. And so we want to build up this layer so that, if we've got everything running really well and we're in a good place, and then just life happens, a message comes through, someone does something, says something, and you get triggered. It happens. How do we deal with that challenge? Do we need to recorrect the thoughts that go through, how we want to address it? Do we need to do something physical? And so it's a way to look at how is it we're regulating our nervous system? How is it that we're moving through hard deadlines at work, stuff that's going on with us, and making sure that when we get frustrated, when we get angry, when we get resentful, that's a really dark, poisonous emotion to have, right? It's like things have lingered a little too long. It's energy that got stuck somewhere. If I just to kind of like boil it down into an energetic practice, there's a lot around that situation to think through and move through, but how do we want to move that energy around? Like, what is it that we need to do and deal with? Because we want to clear out that place. So remember, sacred being, you're a sacred being. Your goal is that you want to be connected. You want to have this creative, energetic flow. So when we have these kind of stuck hard emotions, it's going to be really hard to create. Unless you are an alchemist and you can start to say, like, if I'm angry or if I'm frustrated, I can start to learn how to fuel that and convert that into saying, you know what, I'm going to put all of that fuel, it's actual fuel, into something I really like because I've been practicing doing it enough where I'm going to put that into my work. I'm going to do something even better and I'm going to change my situation because this isn't working and I know how to convert that. Right. So we're starting to pull these levers, and something that took me out of alignment now can bring me back into alignment because I'm learning how to process that energy in a way that is still in my best interest. Right. And it takes practice to do this. It takes a lot of practice. And then once you get it, it's just like, okay, this thing happens. You have your like, oh shit moment, whatever that is, you have whatever the little tea kettle moment, and then you move through it. We're human. It's fine to have the emotions that you want to have. It's just not living in that space, because that's where disease sets in. That's where things start to function improperly in the body if we wait too long to deal with what it is, or if we're, anger just really is not beneficial. And so we want to manage those emotions so that we're back in our natural state. We don't see trees getting angry. We don't see, nature getting angry unless there's a reason for it. But for the most part, there's just this constant, like, nuanced practice of flow, and we're just moving through. And it's really important that we also do read those emotions and those messages, because we don't want to push them down, because that also pushes energy and makes an energy stuck in the body that we don't want to have. And so we want to be able to say, yeah, I'm angry, I'm sad, I'm this, I'm that. And that allows us to fully accept ourselves so that we can learn how to deal with it, which I think is vital, right? Like, you're this beautiful musical instrument and you get to hit all of the notes. So I think that there's something really beautiful in finding purpose within your pain, but you're not living there, you're moving out of it. We love our hero stories of where someone, had a really difficult time and they were able to move out of it. And so being able to, like, have that for yourself, like, I'm sure you all have stories where you had, like, some of your darkest times, you were able to get out of that and just keep practicing and learning how to fine tune that skill as a creator, as a co-creator of, yeah, things happen, things come forward, but you're building that block and that muscle. And so you can build up confidence so that you can keep doing things that, make you feel uneasy getting out of your comfort zone. And we can also practice the flow of grace and unconditional love for ourselves, because we're able to accept those things. And it's the dark parts of us that are difficult and the things that we want to hide from other people, but we still have to have for ourselves. And again, we're not sticking with it. It's just part of nature. There's a light part, there's a dark part. They're both beautiful and they both work really well together. So we want to leverage that energy, right? It's just energy that we want to move through and understand and see why it's here for us, so that we can then direct it in the ways that we want. So if you want to jot down a couple of things as you've been listening, how are you building a better emotional world for yourself? And kind of those same two columns, how do you want to feel in your creative energy and your emotional states in your life and yourself? What new experiences might you want to bring into your life? How can you bring your emotional state and your emotional world more in alignment to your needs? And then also on the other side, in your emotional world, what feelings do you want to let go of? Is there any resentment that you want to release? Is there any, forgiveness you want to offer up, whether it's to others or to yourself? Is there anything that you're just ready to let go of and not hold on anymore in that emotional weight? Are there any feelings of fear, self-doubt, or anger that might be holding you back, or any other emotion that comes up for you? And now you can maybe start to see, like, that's not really serving me. I want to move over into this, just energized, inspired place, and that there's a way to convert that energy and start moving through to get back into alignment with my needs. Just a sip of water, and then we're going to get into the spiritual world. So the last pillar. Last pillar, it's also the top of the pyramid. This is probably the most exciting one. It's how you're connecting to spirit, you're connecting to your own spirit, you're connecting to the spiritual realm, you're connecting to your intuition. This, to me, is the best part. This is the part that I think gets really overlooked. And so again, we're building up, just kind of keep the pyramid. So you've got your physical, your mental, your emotional, and your spiritual. And so as you're thinking about how you're building this up, this is a daily practice. You can start to see how if they're just all brought together in alignment, you can start to flow this energy through. You're starting to, open that space. So you've got all of these pillars working on that you're working on. And now you're able to start connecting to something higher than you. You're connecting to the life force that created all things in the universe. And this is that connection that helps you channel those insights. It helps you replenish and maintain that creative energy. And this is the connection that opens you up to your intuition. This is also a connection that you can use with your higher self. And if you're new to that, think of like the highest version of you and your potential that's actually realized. And it could just be, it's kind of that voice, and there's a couple of different voices depending on how spiritual you are and what you've experienced. It's like that guidance that like, kind of the right things to do, just the right ways to be about in moving in life and moving with people. And that's really just trying to align to that, like being that like best version of yourself, best highest version of yourself, and being able to clear away any of the, energetic debris and clutter so that that is really, really clear. And it's not, I know you can all hear it. It's more of like hearing it in the details and then being able to move with it and being able where like it's never that far from you. And if you ever need to pull it back together, which we'll get into at the end of like, we'll go through that meditation of pulling that in, right? And so this connection really helps bring in those ideas of like your humanitarian pursuits possibly, or what drives you to do something that's for the greater good for yourself and for others. And it brings you into that really creative, natural, the creative like nature of you, that natural space and that natural place. And so you get to kind of commune with source itself. And this is where you start to really, get into the nuances of co-creating with yourself and your life. You're connecting to that higher level of consciousness. And there's a lot of ways that you can do this. Prayer, and prayer can just be a sense of, again, really doesn't have to be anything religious. It's just you having a dialogue. Prayer and meditation is you talking to the universe and then you listening to the universe, you listening to the divine. However you want to, whatever words you want to use that makes sense for you. My point here is that this is that main source, that pure source of energy that is intelligent, that has created everything, that created you, and that you want to tap into that ultimate source. And being able to just open up that channel, open up that conversation so that you're just letting it drop in when it's ready. You can pull on it as much as you want, but when it's ready to talk to you in a specific way, it's talking to you. And I've always found that when I'm asking for things and I don't hear, it's because I've already been given the advice that I need to know. And it's my job to now be the creator and go out in the world and go do the things until I get the next set of instructions or the next thing that I need to do. And so like this pillar, like all of the other pillars, this is a very personal choice on how you want to do this, how you want to bring in this information into your life. And the main goal I want to have with these kinds of conversations is giving you a framework so that you can start to see, there's these 4 pillars. I need to do this. I think you need to do this every single day. What does that look like specifically for you in your life? And if you understand the value of each one of these, as life changes, because it does, as you move through life, you understand the fundamentals so that whatever fitness thing you do and it changes, you still know it's important to move your body. Whatever mental thing happens, you still know how to like adjust your thoughts and your perspective. Whatever emotional, crap gets thrown at you, you know how to maneuver that energy around. And then same thing of like connecting and how to build that. So if you want to kind of the last set of columns of understanding, like column 1 on how to build your spiritual world, are there any acts or activities that you could bring into your spiritual worlds or add to that might enrich your soul? That gives you that like extra sense of inspiration. That's a little bit beyond looking at like creative work. That really kind of feeds you nourishment that you don't get. or anything that you've been interested in trying out? You know, what new ways could you bring about and build a more intuitive and spiritual life for yourself? And how do you bring that spiritual state of being into alignment with your needs? And then on the other side of that column, you know, what outdated beliefs, dogmas, or old ways of moving about are you ready to move on from? And being okay and accepting that maybe the ways that you were brought up, maybe the ways that you were told to do something just don't work anymore. And it's okay because they're actually out of alignment for you. You're moving into a different space. Or there are things that you absolutely really love and maybe it's something to double down on and add more to, which would be in the other column. But yeah, so look at, you know, is there anything that you need to remove or replace in your spiritual world? Anything that kind of brings you into that alignment with where you're at today? So I've kind of thrown a lot at you in this last 50 minutes, hour almost. Do you have any questions?
This is Nikki, and I just want to first of all say thank you. I've written pages and pages, and definitely reminding to get unstuck and get back into the movement. Today, I did feel like I was stuck doing necessary work, and it made me feel very and because I haven't done any creative things. But then I also went, oh, I haven't moved. I've just been sitting in one spot. So that little nudge was really helpful.
Great, I'm glad to hear. I'm glad to hear.
Everything's beautiful too, but I was just like, I think that's why I feel stuck.
Sometimes it's just the basics to be reminded, you know, that's all. Um, so love to hear any other questions, and we still have a little time after. I'd love to move into, if you're ready, an energy technique. So we'll actually do a meditation and like really have you move through like what it feels like. Because we're gonna move through and like connect to this like Hara line, this line of energy, and how to open up. And what I feel like is great about this is so anytime that you feel fragmented, you've got too many thoughts moving in through your mind, you have too many emotions running through you, you don't feel grounded, you are not connected to yourself or spirit. This practice, this technique is something that I hope you can go back to. And over time, you can do it within like 30 seconds. You need to do it before you move into a meeting. You need to do it before you're going to do something really big. And it just kind of helps you bring your power back. Because a lot of times we've just and I'm an overthinker. So it's just like really easy to have your thoughts scattered everywhere. Or if you're just like feeling, you know, there's like, it kind of starts to feel a little dark in the world, or it feels like a little heavy, and you just need to like bring back to yourself into this inner space, and you need to connect again back into source with yourself. And sometimes I like, you know, you can cling on to this line, this connect line to divine source. And I think it's just so important that we're learning, or that's kind of my mission as well, is to help teach ways that you're learning how to connect to your intuition without trying to go elsewhere. It's nice to get support. It's nice to hear reverberations back from society, but I think it's really, really vital that you are connected specifically and straight to source without any intermediary, especially as creatives. So this is just, you know, a little gift, a little offering of being able to connect. So with that, and there's some time at the end if there's any other questions, let's get into it. This should probably be like 4 or 5 minutes. So I want you to just get really comfortable and let's focus our attention on our breath. And I'm going to invite you to breathe with me for just a little bit. And so I'm going to breathe in. And then as I breathe in and release, feel free to let go when you're ready. Another deep breath in. And then release when you're ready. Do that a couple more times on your own. And just know that you're in control of this moment right here. Another deep breath in. And then release. And we'll do one more. A deep breath in. And then release. And I want you to notice how you feel taking in these breaths and how you're releasing them. And let these breaths be filled with gentleness, serenity, and peacefulness. And as you continue breathing, as you're in this moment, know that you are safe, know that you are loved, know that you are secure, and know that you're being guided and supported to feel peace and to let go of any stress. And to lean into this process of letting go of anything and everything that can keep you from feeling this moment right here, right now. And as you continue breathing, notice your body and any sensations that you're feeling. And if you notice any discomfort, any pain, any tightness, breathe into that area. Breathe that gentleness, that sweetness, and allow that breath to move that discomfort, any pain, any resistance away. Feel it melting away as you continue breathing. And continue to let go even further and continue to release any tension in the body, letting it melt further away, further down. And as you take another deep breath, imagine a line of pure divine light going through your body. And this light can be golden, it can be silver, it can be white, it can be whatever is calling to you. This is your connection and cord. And see this light start at your solar plexus, which is right around your belly button. And this light is going to move straight down into the core of the earth. And it's going to anchor you. And I want you to feel this cord being strong and secure as it continues to move down further and further. And as you move into the core of the earth, find a place that is all yours, that you can anchor into at any time. And as you anchor into the core of this earth, take a moment to start to pull up the energy from the earth, the strength, the stability, and anything that you need at this moment in time. And know that as you're pulling up this connection to earth, you're free to move your body and be as comfortable as you need to be. And as you're drawing out the energy from the earth, continue to feel that strength and stability supporting you, rising up within you, rising up slowly through your body as far as it feels comfortable for you. Now continue to imagine that same line of light moving up through your body into the center of your heart and your soul, moving up to the top of your chakra, your crown chakra, into the cosmos. And feel this connection to the divine source of energy. And know that you can be here now. And know that at any time you need to come back to this place, this is your essence of light, of soul, and this is always here for you to connect into the divine. This is your direct connection to source. And as you feel grounded, centered, and connected, see this light expand within you. And it grows further and further out. See it moving past your body, out past your flesh, out past your bones, and into your space. And imagine this pure ball of golden light extending out around you at arm's length. This is your energetic auric field. And as you see this ball of light holding you within it, feel all the pieces of your energy come back to you. Every thought, every emotion, every action that you've been doing, bring all of that back to you. Continue to see that energy moving, filling up this ball of light, getting brighter, getting stronger, getting more energized. Know that this is your life force energy. This is your creative life force. And as you call back all of this energy, take a moment to sit and feel all of this unconditional love it provides as you're connected to the divine source. Feel the vitality of energy moving through you. Feel the love, feel the security, feel the safety. And take a moment and go back to visualizing that creative life that you're destined to live. And see yourself in each moment of that day again. This time feeling even more energized, even more invigorated with this new sense and feeling of eternal life and this life force flowing through you. Know that you can connect to this line and expand this energy out anytime. You can always feel this invigorated, this inspired, this energized, this loved, this connected anytime. This allows you to be in the moment, to be here now. This is the life you are destined to live. When you're ready, take a moment and start to come back into your body. Wiggle your fingers and your toes. And just kind of get grounded back into your space. And take a few notes when you have a moment you're ready on what you saw, what you felt. And take note to see if anything changed from earlier in the workshop that you had written down. Did you see any shifts happen just even by acknowledging and noticing some things that needed to be changed? Did your energy shift? If there's anything you'd like to share in the chat or out loud, I'd love to hear if anything came out, anything sparked any difference. Maybe you're still in the bubble. Does anyone have any thoughts, any questions they want to ask as we kind of wind down our workshop today? If you'd like to stay in touch, there is a link. You can subscribe. I have a newsletter that I write once a week, kind of giving insights into this creative flow and lifestyle. Hopefully you might like that. And I also thought it'd be really lovely if you're interested as a little gift. I put together an intuitive journal, and it's a 6-month journal, but here is a link for 1 month that you can try out. And it's just a way that you can start to hone in on your intuition, track your moods, and then kind of look at like your goals for the month, what resistance you might have, any affirmations, and then just note down any sort of intentions that you have, any insights you get, any intuition that you get, and then kind of see how it shows up in the world. And I think sometimes, like, you have journals, we have planners, we have all kinds of different things, but it's really nice to have these insights kind of kept in one spot so that when you do get your intuition and you doubt it, you have a record of what actually has happened in the past. Like, no, I saw that thing or I got that intuitive hit and then it showed up a little later. And it's a way that we can kind of feel more empowered and also really start to see the nuances of it. There's the full book is on Amazon. It's on my website, wisdomhealings.com. But this one, just to kind of get you started and give you a little sense of how to map through it and just help identify those little key things that just, I think, are the sparkle in life and help illuminate the world around us so that we can start to commune with our spiritual side, with our intuitive side, And that's the kind of stuff that helps that creative spark and that creative flow. So I hope this was helpful. I hope this helped give you a sense of creative, um, your creative spark, how to maintain it, how to move about with it. And again, that meditation slash energy technique, just think about alignments, how to connect with your core, and then you're just pushing your energy, your auric field out, and you're calling your energy back in. And you can do that whenever you feel, out of sorts and fragmented. If you have any questions, you can always email me at hello@wisdomhealings.com. I'll probably do these maybe once a month. And I'll probably just send out a little thank you email so that you can connect with me as well if you'd like to stay in touch. And yeah, I'm going to actually put in one more link. I am also planning on doing a course in the fall. So if you want to get on the wait list to hear about that, it's called The Intuitive Artist, and it's just this sense of going deeper within. How do we really hone in on these elements, even going further, and then bringing that innovation to life. So this is just a wait list, just so that when it starts coming out, if you want to know more about it, you can, and maybe get access to some goodies because you're on the wait list for it. And yeah, so we've got a couple more minutes. If you have any questions, happy to answer them, or any thoughts, any insights. And if not, I will let you go a little bit earlier.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for being here. Thank you for your time. I know it's a big deal to take time out of your busy schedules to do this. So thank you for letting me share my love for this work.
Well, you're very good at it. So thank you.
Thank you. All right. Well, everyone, have a wonderful evening, and hopefully I will see you soon. Stay in touch. Take care. Bye.